Hello and a warm welcome to episode 16 of Saturn in the Zodiac Signs. Saturn stands, among other things, for logic, responsibility, discipline, but also for crystallization, life's trials, time, old age, death, and patience, the endless waiting. All qualities that aren't necessarily the most popular, and which we'll be exploring in detail in Phase 7. Because when we find ourselves in Phase 7, it also means that we're on the verge of an energetic reprogramming. In a manner of speaking, we're about to level up. We permanently raise our frequency. Our energetic patterns are reprogrammed, and this new state, this new energetic condition, remains. It can't be lost, and it endures even beyond physical death. That's what we can truly take with us from this. And by the way, this state has been known for thousands of years. It is the very highest that a human being can ever achieve. Some call it nirvana, others call it enlightenment, some say Buddha, and others refer to it as attained wholeness. It is the state where the search comes to an end, where a permanent inner contentment defines our existence and one is no longer dependent on external circumstances. A life that is no longer defined by lack, by restlessness, and by the endless desire for more, but by a quiet abundance that radiates from within. Wholeness means coming home to yourself, to your essence, to your true core. Imagine going through life with a calmness that nothing and no one can shake anymore. Challenges lose their weight, because you have the strength to master them from your inner center. Relationships become deeper because you have found yourself and because you no longer seek outside what can only arise within you. Your whole everyday life transforms from a constant struggle into a creative game in which you realize you are not a victim of circumstances, but the creator of your own being. And that's exactly what my videos are about in the 7 phases. Not about abstract theories, but practical steps that bring you closer to this state, step by step. Yes, and that until we finally arrive at the last, 7th phase. In this final phase, everything we've learned up to now is tested again, internalized once more. Because Saturn is the great teacher, the great master, who doesn't give us any quick shortcuts, but on the contrary, checks very carefully whether we are ready for the big step, for the great transformation. He also presents us with challenges that show whether we are truly ready. For example, it might be that old patterns resurface, ones you thought you had long since overcome, or life simply teaches you patience and makes you wait endlessly until every bit of inner impatience has transformed into inner strength. Or perhaps you also notice that topics like responsibility, clarity, and boundaries come at you again, but on a much deeper level. Saturn tests whether you have built your foundation solidly, because only those who have done so can pass through the Great Gate. Phase 7 is not an end, it is the completion, because Saturn also leads you through a symbolic death. All that is old may die, all old patterns, all old blockages, everything that has kept you small can leave for good. And it is precisely in this final letting go, or you could also say, it is exactly here that the last energetic patterns are refined and reprogrammed. And it is exactly at this moment that the rebirth begins. This is exactly where the switch happens into a new, energetic, higher frequency. Or in other words, you have turned your lead into gold, and this moment is the highest you can achieve here on Earth. An inner wholeness that remains. No more masks, no more playing roles, no more searching, but a conscious arrival in your true being. It is the moment when everything falls into place, and that is exactly why the final phase is not the end, but the highest fulfillment. Well, but there is still a little way to go before we reach that point. At the moment, we are still in the preparation phase. And today, of course, we're still going to take a look at Saturn, what it means, where it is in your horoscope, what your Saturn is, and what it actually signifies. That's what we're going to look at today. And for that, of course, there are new lists again, which I'll show you now. Right, so this here is the new list. This is the Saturn list. And those who are already taking part have already received the list by email. Everyone else can download the list below, simply by clicking the link below. It's down in the description. It says to the planet list or to Saturn. And there you'll also find all the other lists that have been released so far for the planets we've already covered, and you'll receive the upcoming ones by email as well. Additionally, there are further meanings for all the planets on my website. These additional meanings are also linked below. You can have another look there. You'll find many more meanings that you can add as needed. Right, so the symbol up here, where I'm circling with the mouse, is Saturn. And Saturn, among other things, stands for responsibility, logic, crystallization, and death. And now let's take a look at your horoscope to see where Saturn is located. If you don't have your horoscope yet, please make one quickly. The video where I do this with you is also linked below in the description. And then we'll come back again. Yes, and if your Saturn symbol, which in my example horoscope here is clearly located, I'm carefully circling it with the mouse as well, as you can see in Cancer in this particular case. So if this significant symbol is positioned in Aries for you, that means in this specific section that I'm currently circling with the mouse, then your Saturn is indeed in Aries. And that means that the violet Saturn was, at the precise time of your birth, in the red direction of Aries, that is to say, in the red section of the sky which distinctly belongs to Aries. Break time equals 0.5s/. Because the zodiac is also aligned with our 12 directions of the sky. That means Aries occupies a 30-degree section of the sky here, and that's exactly where Saturn was at the time of your birth. That's why, in this case, your Saturn is in Aries. And on the positive side, that is, when it's well placed, Saturn in Aries can mean, among other things, controlled impulsiveness. Discipline then also corresponds to purposeful action. And that's naturally ideal here with Aries, because Aries is impulsive and can really shoot through the roof in no time. It has an incredible amount of energy, but without Saturn's qualities, it's uncontrolled. And so, in this case, it's the perfect match, because this impulsiveness can simply be kept in check here. Yes, and that's all there is to it, really, because he has this incredible strength, can control it, can hold himself back, and can then use it in measured doses. And that's when it all comes together perfectly. That way, something really good can come out of it. Exactly. And then you also have long-term staying power, because you don't burn up all your energy in 3 seconds, but instead you pace yourself nicely. Then, on the shadow side, blocked drive to act, responsibility is felt as a burden. Yes, Saturn can, of course, also put the brakes on there. That would be the negative version, when impulsiveness is really blocked, disturbed, and the normal strength just can't come through properly anymore. You'd have to see what could be done about that. Right, let's continue with Taurus then. Taurus, that's this symbol here, where I'm circling with the mouse. And if your Saturn symbol is in here, then your Saturn sign is Taurus. And that means that the violet Saturn was in the green direction of Taurus at the time of your birth. That means the violet Saturn is dipped in green, and among other things, this can truly mean, on the bright side, profound sensuality, vibrant creativity, and deep sensitivity that's Taurus for you anyway. break time equals 0.5s/, but here we have Saturn in it, which means the Saturn sign in your personal horoscope would be Taurus here, and that means your Saturn energies, so to speak, will receive sensuality, but also creativity and sensitivity. And of course, this can do the rigid, stiff, and very serious Saturn a whole world of good. So here, it gets colored green. It's actually violet and is now heading in the green direction, thus taking on the sensuality of Taurus, the creativity of Taurus, and so it's no longer quite so rigid and serious, but rather a more sensual Saturn. And of course, that can have a very positive effect. And, on top of that, extremely receptive, steadfast, and loyal. Yes, Taurus is already very deep and digests everything 4 times over. With Saturn, the whole thing gets an extra large helping and is digested even better and reflected on even more thoroughly. Yes, that's really, 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 really great. If it's well placed, on the shadow side, however, responsibility becomes tied to possessions, greedy and envious. Then let's continue with Gemini. The symbol for Gemini is this one here, which I'm circling with the mouse right now. And if your Saturn symbol is in here, then your Saturn sign is Gemini. And that means that the violet Saturn was in the orange direction of Gemini at the time of your birth, so it's dipped in orange, so to speak. And among other things, on the light side, this means being very intelligent, inventive, and that knowledge gains structure and substance. Yes, that's obviously very beneficial. The mentally alert Gemini, the quick-witted Gemini, here also receives the Saturnian, steadfast, logical qualities and abilities, and when that's combined with the nimble, alert Gemini, well, that's a very good thing. Break time equals 0.5s/, as you can clearly see. Saturn truly supports things here if you already have something well placed or the natural, inherent abilities of a zodiac sign. Saturn makes them even stronger, better, more long-lasting, more structured, more down-to-earth, and more deeply rooted and established. Break time equals 0.5s/. This combination creates a powerful and enduring influence. On the shadow side, however, it can make one unsociable and distant. Yes, it could be that you simply feel too intelligent, for example. I mean, it can genuinely be the case that you are just very intelligent and then you simply think, okay, sorry, but this is all just too stupid for me here. And that can actually lead to you distance yourself from everyone, withdraw, and don't want to have anything to do with anyone anymore because you just find the whole thing too stupid. That can happen. It could manifest like that in such people. Of course, that's not the solution either, because it can well be that if someone sees through things more, understands more, then that can lead to withdrawal, simply because you know what you're involved in. But that should also be used positively if you want to move forward. And in this withdrawal, in this hermit-like existence, I actually know someone who withdrew like that, really completely from everything. And it wasn't okay, because he really let himself go. He really did. I mean, it wasn't okay, because you could tell when you walked past his place, the whole house was totally run down. He didn't tidy up anymore. He really became a proper recluse, and that's not it either. Yes, well, and also hurtful in his choice of words. Right, let's continue with Cancer then. Cancer, this is the symbol here, the one I'm circling with the mouse, this 30-degree section. And if your Saturn symbol is in here, then your Saturn is in Cancer. And that means that the violet Saturn was in the dark blue direction of Cancer at the time of your birth. This can mean, in its positive form, controlled emotions, and moods. Yes, here Saturn appears again. It puts the brakes on Cancer's moodiness and emotional dramas. That's when Saturn comes in, calms everything down, and sets a rule for it all. That means this can also have an optimal effect on the emotional world of Cancer. By simply making things more controlled and not quite so, well, all Cancers, typical Cancers, will definitely know what it's like to feel completely different every 10 minutes. So you can actually swing from loving everything and everyone to depression. For a Cancer, that's absolutely no problem in 10 minutes, and this reins it in a bit and allows you to look at things more objectively. Strategic dreaming, that's also a wonderful thing, because Cancers are truly talented when it comes to dreams. I know many Cancers who remember very well what they dream, some who can even train themselves to act within their dreams. That means they can decide in advance what they want to dream about. They can move around in their dreams. That requires a certain amount of training, that's clear, but with Saturn involved here as well. Yes, it's perfect, because dreaming isn't something that just comes naturally. It's a form of training, just like anything else. So, if you want to build up a muscle at the gym, you have to go there often and you have to sweat. And it's quite similar with dream training. You also have to take care of it regularly and use certain techniques. But with Saturn in Cancer, you can achieve some really fantastic results. You also get consistent results, and you can really bring proper structure into these dream exercises. That means you can not only control your dreams, but also dream in a structured way, so you can decide what you dream about in that moment. And yes, it's been noticed with Saturn in Cancer that it becomes even easier because Saturn is present here and that makes it more favorable for you. And on the shadow side, responsibility is felt as a burden, emotional blockages, yes, that would be the other direction again. Then nothing works at all, emotions are blocked. And of course, there could be other reasons why that's the case. Yes, you'd have to take a closer look at what's going on there. Then let's continue with Leo. Leo is the symbol here, the one I'm circling with the mouse. And if your Saturn symbol is in here, then your Saturn is in Leo. And here, at the time of your birth, the violet Saturn was in the yellow Leo direction. That means Saturn is dipped in yellow. And on the light side, this can sometimes mean optimal leadership qualities, being creatively original, creative. On the shadow side, however, extremely trapped in one's self-image. Yes, then they can't get out of it anymore. That's the classic Saturn in Leo, so trapped in their self-image that they can't see beyond it. They believe that's the only truth and can't break free from it. It's really like a prison. And with people like that, it's very difficult to find any common ground or reach a compromise at all. Basically impossible, because they just can't see it. They are truly trapped in their own limited perspective and simply cannot see beyond it. Yes, and to be completely honest, I genuinely think that's one of the absolute worst cards, because you can actually master almost anything somehow. Anything, the worst traumas, really the worst things, no matter what might have happened to you, you can transform and overcome them. But if you can't see yourself, if you don't see it and don't want to admit it, then there's nothing you can do. It's just not possible. Because if you already think you're perfect and believe there's nothing you need to do, then you'll never be able to change anything about yourself. And that would be the end of it, really. So you never even get started, and as a result, you never really have a chance for any kind of personal growth or self-development, even if there's huge potential there. Because people like that, if they could actually see themselves, they would get a lot of things done much more quickly, because they have that self-confidence of a Leo then Saturn's determination, discipline, and sense of responsibility. So if they had the ability to see themselves, a lot of things would be much easier for them then. For example, for someone who lacks self-confidence. Because that person can see themselves and then works on their self-confidence and eventually reaches their goal, simply because they keep at it. The other person might have it easier here, but just can't see themselves at all. Yes, so you can't get started. That's an example. Then there's expression blockages. Then let's continue with Virgo. Virgo is the symbol here, the one I'm circling with the mouse. And if your Saturn symbol is in here, then your Saturn sign is Virgo. And here it was. The violet Saturn, at the time of your birth, was in the orange direction of Virgo. And among other things, on the bright side, this truly means being very logical and genuinely eager to learn, with maximum precision and efficiency. On the shadow side, however, it blocks the ability to let go. Yes, then you just can't let yourself go at all. Virgo already tends to have more trouble letting go, especially if things aren't well aspected or are just average, simply trusting life and saying, okay, I'm going to switch everything off now, especially my thoughts, and just let myself go for once. Now, if Saturn is also badly aspected in here, then it could be really, really blocked when it comes to just letting go. And paranoia. One could also be very much trapped in paranoia, especially if you're already prone to it. And if Saturn is also positioned here, then it could feel like a little prison. It keeps coming back, and you just have fears that won't leave you in peace. Of course, there are also methods and remedies for that. Exactly. We'll look at that if any of you have this in your chart. It will all resolve itself. Definitely. Good. Then let's continue with Libra. Libra is the symbol here, which I'm circling with the mouse right now. And if your Saturn symbol is positioned here, in this 30-degree section, your Saturn is in Libra. And that means that the violet Saturn was in the green Libra direction at the time of your birth. And on the bright side, this can mean a connection between logic, intellect and feeling, aesthetics, sensuality. Yes, here Saturn, the logical, intellectual Saturn, meets the emotional, aesthetic and sensual Libra direction. Yes, the distinctive Libra energy. Break time equals 0.5s/. And this can really have an absolutely positive effect in all areas, because you simply combine logic and feeling in everything you do, so intellect and feeling together, and that's the best thing you can possibly do in any matter. For example, just to give a very simple example, a house. Yes, a person with such a constellation wouldn't just build the house logically, making sure everything is well constructed, logically planned, everything insulated, the walls are stable. The wiring is intelligently laid out, but it will also look beautiful. So, aesthetically, it will be a dream as well. That means both functional and aesthetic, and that's true everywhere. So, it can be applied to all other areas as well. On the shadow side, however, there's constant comparison, fear of relationships, inhibitions. Let's continue with Scorpio. Scorpio is the symbol here, where I'm moving the mouse around right now. And if your Saturn symbol is in here, your Saturn sign is Scorpio. And that means that the violet Saturn was in the red Scorpio direction at the time of your birth. In the positive version, this can mean a responsible approach to power. Yes, people like that, who hold positions of power, don't abuse it, but instead handle it properly. And that's especially true for Scorpios, who are very power-oriented. If that's well aspected, it's fantastic, because they're also very brilliant. They're very intelligent and, strategically, especially ingenious here as well. So, these are fantastic, top-notch leaders because they're intelligent and also handle power well without abusing it, which, let's be honest, is a bit rarer these days. But of course, they do exist. And then, there's an intense degree of self-control. On the shadow side, however, there's emotional stubbornness, bitterness, and a tendency towards feelings of guilt. Now, let's have a look at Sagittarius. Sagittarius is this symbol here, where I'm moving the mouse around. And if your Saturn symbol is in this area, then your Saturn sign is Sagittarius. And that means that the purple Saturn was in the light blue Sagittarius direction at the time of your birth. And in turn, on the positive side, this means that this person can realistically put visions into practice. So, they're not utopian or unachievable. Thanks to Saturn, this person can actually make them happen. And they have clear ethical principles. On the shadow side, however, there are blockages in personal growth and inner doubts. Next, we have Capricorn, where I'm circling with the mouse right now. And if Saturn is in here, then your Saturn sign is Capricorn. And that means that the violet Saturn was in its home at the time of your birth, namely in the violet Capricorn direction. Among other things, in its positive aspect, this truly means maximum concentration, high resilience, and endless patience. Yes, Saturn is practically at home in the zodiac sign of Capricorn. And that's the ultimate in concentration. I'd almost say it's the absolute maximum possible. On the shadow side, however, it can be too strict. Overload due to too much responsibility. Yes, here one could also be very petty and see everything in a very, very narrow-minded way. And then, yes, also take on too much responsibility, feeling responsible for everything. And yes, that can of course be very burdensome. Above all, Saturn and Capricorn are very much, well, people even say prison. You really find yourself in a prison then, where it's hard to even look out, if at all. So you really need to know this, otherwise you'll never get out if you don't have some sort of map, because he simply is, well, the prison warden. It's often described like that in various stories too, as the prison warden who doesn't let you out. And if you know that, then it does work. You have to know it, and then you work on it effectively. Alright, then let's continue with Aquarius. Aquarius is the symbol here, where I'm moving the mouse around. And if your Saturn symbol is in here, then your Saturn sign is Aquarius. And then the violet Saturn was once again in its home, in the complementary part to Capricorn, namely Aquarius. And that one is also violet. And in its positive form, this means innovative, visionary thinking with a practical application. Yes, then all those wild ideas actually get put into practice. Yes. It doesn't just remain a brilliant idea, but it actually gets realized, and these are the truly great inventions that leave a lasting impression. Break time equals 0.5s/. And foresight. On the shadow side, however, excessive rationality, lack of flexibility. And last but not least, we have our Pisces. And that's the symbol here, where I'm moving the mouse around. And if your Saturn symbol is in here, then your Saturn sign is Pisces. And then, at the time of your birth, the violet Saturn was in the light blue Pisces direction. And in its positive form, this truly means, among other important things, inner stability despite their inherent sensitivity. These are the Pisces individuals who, well, don't simply swim away or go soft and hide themselves because of the harsh realities of the world, but instead remain remarkably stable and steadfast, because Saturn powerfully supports this very well. Break time equals 0.5s/. So you can see once again that wherever Saturn is well placed, it improves the fundamental energy everywhere, because Pisces tend to drift off into dreams, to be unstable, to fall into dependencies, simply to feel insecure, as they spend so much time in their world of ideas, in their dream world, and then lose their footing. And that's when Saturn comes along and presses them back down, saying, hey, don't drift off. Yes, right. Then, the realistic realization of dreams. Yes, that's positive, because they dream and they're able to make dreams come true. And inner order. Outer order, well, yes. Good. And on the shadow side, lack of boundaries, problems with reality, problems making decisions. So, we've now gone through Saturn in the zodiac signs, and in the next episode we'll be looking at Uranus in the zodiac signs in your horoscope, where it's located and what it means. Great! Then I look forward to you tuning in again. Until next time, and all the best until then. Bye-bye.